Hello everybody and welcome back to another video. Today I am going to be giving you my OWCS Finals primer. Today we're going to talk about all of the 8 teams competing, just talking a little bit about it. This is really to help those of you who haven't been following it super closely, you just have questions or you're wondering what the teams are. It's also just a kind of general video to share you some of my thoughts on these teams before we get into the actual predictions, which are going to come out tomorrow. But for today, we're just going to take a look at the 8 teams, and I will share my thoughts on all of them, strengths, weaknesses, all that kind of stuff. But here you can see, throwing it up now, the 8 teams and the rosters that are competing. We have the Toronto Defiant from North America, Nightmare out of North America, NRG Shock out of North America, Spacestation Gaming out of EMEA, ENCE out of EMEA, Twisted Minds out of EMEA, Team Falcons out of Asia, and Crazy Raccoon out of Asia. So those are your teams. I'm going to talk about each of them, give you my thoughts, and yeah, it'll be fun, good time. So let's jump into it. Let's start with the first team for this one, and we're going to be starting in the Asia region with the first team, and that is Team Falcon. Here we have the roster for Team Falcons. You can see here they have the Chio Fielder support line with Sherman Jet as their number 3 there. You have Hanbin and Smurf for the tanks, and Proper, Stalker, and Happy as their damage trio. This Falcons team has been very successful this year, having some pretty solid results as you can see here. They won that first stage in Korea before getting second in the main event in Asia, losing to Crazy Raccoon, who they also then lost to in the major. So that first half of the year, a little disappointing for them. They did not get to the finals in Esports World Cup, once again losing to Crazy Raccoon. But stage 2, the playoffs, was all Team Falcons, winning Stage 2 Korea and winning the Asia main event in a banger of a series against Crazy Raccoon. So this is a team that has really shown that they're able to perform at one of the highest levels of all the teams here. Proper, phenomenal player, of course, DPS player, one of the MVPs of the league this year, might even win the Asia MVP. They've had a very, very good year, and they're able to play a lot of their success off of the back of some really good flexibility from their damage line. They have 2 solid tanks where they can play whatever they need to. Hanbin on that off tank traditionally kind of role, and Smurf on those main tank heroes. I think Chio and Fielder have not shown the same flexibility of some of your other top support lines this year, but right now they're playing in a meta that really plays to their strengths. They're able to really play a lot of what we've seen them excel on this year, and I think they picked up this kind of Juno break comp quite quickly when some of the other teams, you look like Crazy Raccoon or Zeta Division, they didn't pick it up as quickly and have that same level of play as quickly. And so this is a very good team with a lot of really good pieces. Certainly Proper is the player to watch if we're getting a similar meta to what we've been seeing. We see a lot of Genji, we see a lot of Tracer potentially. We might be seeing a lot of the kind of Proper Stalker duo really popping off, really finding a lot of success. So certainly watch out for those two to have a lot of impact on this game. But really, this is one of the favorites to win this tournament because they've been so good all year. They have some really elite play out of players like Proper and Stalker, getting a lot of value in that damage line. It's very difficult to beat them. You have a really solid support line that's able to really, really benefit the whole team here. And just 2 veterans in that tank role that are really able to play pretty much anything. It's a hard team to beat. They're one of the best teams in the world for a reason. And you have to really favor them to be a team capable of making a deep run. So lots of love to this Falcons roster. They should be one of the favorites. And they've shown it a lot this year. And certainly after that Stage 4 victory, or Stage 2 victory, I should say, for Asia, a lot of reason why they go into this tournament as a lot of people's picks to win the whole thing. Next team coming out of Asia is Crazy Raccoon. You can see their roster here. Support line of Chorong and Shu. DPS duo of Lip and Heesang, and tanks are Junbin and Max. They did have Knife on this team for a little while, but they just recently announced that he was being released from this team. This team, kind of the opposite of Team Falcons this year. Obviously, they won that Asia main event in Stage 1. They won the major in Dallas. They won Esports World Cup. They pretty much dominated all of Stage 2 in Korea, and then Juno came out and the meta changed, and they fell a little flat. They got second, however, in Asia Stage 2. So it's not like they had a bad stage. Their regular stage, regular season part of the stage was phenomenal. They didn't drop a map. They were absolutely destroying people. It really was just the meta change that kind of hurt them a little bit. But now we go into having had some time for them to learn the composition and get a little bit better. And I think we're going to see a better version of Crazy Raccoon going into this tournament, which is a very, very, very scary prospect for all the teams involved. Big player to watch out on this team is Lip, one of the best players in the world, consistently one of the top DPS players in the world. I'll talk a little bit more about Lip here in a second, but I do want to highlight the support line as well. Like I said, with Team Falcons, sometimes a lack of consistency in that Chio Fielder support line hurt this team, or hurt that team. With Chorong and Shu, that is not a problem. This is one of the most flexible support lines we've ever seen in Overwatch. They are phenomenal. They can play double flex if they need to. Chorong can play the Lucio at a high level, and can play the Brig at a high level, which allows Shu, of course, to excel on his best heroes like Bap and Ana and Zenyatta. So really, really good team here that I think will be really fun to watch. And then you have the young guns with Max, Junbin, and Heesang, who are really coming into their own this year and really having a good run, kind of solidifying themselves as big names in Overwatch. But like I said about Lip, one of the things I'm really curious to see about this team in this tournament, I don't necessarily think this is the way things are going to go. If the meta isn't as different as I don't think it's going to change that much from what we saw in Stage 2 in Asia or Stage 4 in North America, in that kind of playoffs for Asia at least. So it's not guaranteed. But we did see Sombra get those changes going into the current season, Season 13, to move her into a bit more of an aggressive, kind of offensive piece as opposed to kind of the flanky, kind of utility piece that she's kind of been. She obviously still did good damage, but she's heavy damage now. Lip, famously, best Sombra player we've ever seen in Overwatch. And I wonder if this change could open up the path for Crazy Raccoon to pull out the Sombra comps again and really run that. I think Sombra's a very good hero against Orisa. I think she kind of hard counters Orisa in a lot of ways. And if you are able to find success on that hero, this could be a really, really, really good look for Crazy Raccoon. So just want to throw that out there as a thing to watch out for. Lip, obviously, the player to watch out for. One of the best players in the world. I think this is another team. A lot of people are going to pick this team to win the whole thing. They've been very good all year. Like I said, dominated. They've won 2 out of the 3 major tournaments this year. Can they make it a third? We'll find out this weekend. But very good team. Certainly one of the top in the region. Certainly one of the top in the world. There's no denying this team is one of the best of the best. Moving on from Asia, we go to North America, and we talk about the team that dominated North America all year, the Toronto Defiant. Here is their roster. You can see they have that Merit and Sugar-Free damage duo, RuPaul Vega support line, and their solo tank on this team. Someone, the 2023 Overwatch League MVP. Very good roster. Like I said, they have dominated North America all year. As you can see from their results, North America Stage 1, North America Stage 2, North America Stage 3, North America Stage 4. First. The NA Masters Esports World Cup in North America, first. This doesn't show it, but at Esports World Cup, because they went under the name Toronto Ultra, so it's not showing on this one, they're at second overall. Really, the only blunder in their season was that 5-6 finish at the major in Dallas, losing to ENCE. Outside of that, this team has been very good all year, dominating North America. Now, to be fair, North America, not been the best region this year, been a little weak. This team, though, very, very strong. And with what we saw out of them at Esports World Cup, there is a lot of reason to believe this team has what it takes to challenge some of the other best teams in the world. And that's a huge thing to be excited about if you are a fan of North American Overwatch, if you're a fan of the Toronto Defiant, whatever it may be, something of note with this team. I don't love this meta for them. I don't think an Orisa Rush meta is their best look. I think they would much rather be in a Winston meta in this stage, but they do get to put Sugar Free on Genji, a hero that he excels at, that he looks very, very good on. And Merit on Hitscan is always a threat. So when you have someone like who is an incredibly well-balanced tank player who can play everything at a high level, like literally everything. He can play Winston at a high level. He can play Ryan at a high level. He can play Diva and Zarya at a high level. He can play Sigma. He can play whatever. He is truly a one-of-a-kind tank player who can play anything you need him to. And when you pair that with just the absolute high-caliber damage dealing that Sugar Free and Merit can do, and RuPaul, one of the best flex supports we've seen come out of the West in a very long time, it's a really impressive roster. I think Vega is the piece that you are a little bit more concerned about, but he's been able to hold his own for the entire year and look very good when they need him to. And I think that is the thing about this team that you love. It is a 5-man core. They don't have any substitutions. So if something's not working, they don't have a sub. They don't have something they can switch. They don't have some magical sub they can make to really help elevate this team. So if they aren't able to really find their rhythm early, I struggle with thinking this team will be able to magically get a lot better. But we've seen them come back and fight against adversity in those matches against Nightmare in Stage 4. And I think when you look at what this team has done, they've been very good. They've been dominant for a reason. And it's because they're really well coached and they're really talented. And they have all the pieces you need to be a successful roster. And I would not be surprised if this is a team that is able to push and challenge that top 3 in this tournament. Because they have been that good this year. And I've liked what I've seen so far. So a lot of love for this team. A lot of love for this roster. Certainly think the Defiant have what it takes to be one of the top dogs here in Stockholm. Next, let's talk about that 2 seed coming out of North America. We have Nightmare. Really fun roster here. I think my favorite team still alive right now in OWCS. I do love this Nightmare roster. You can see their team here. They have the Admiral, ZZZ, CJ support trio, Seekers Era and Lethal DPS trio, and the Infected Clear tank duo. They've had a lot of kind of shakeups on this team. Obviously, they were FMCL for a little bit. They were Timeless for a little bit, but they became Nightmare, and they've been pretty good ever since. Made it to Esports World Cup after really kind of just forming this version of the roster. Didn't have a great run there, but come back to North America, get 3rd in Stage 3, win that Face It NA Master qualifier, but I don't think they actually competed in the main event. And then they got 2nd in a banger of a nail-biter, close 4-3 series in that finals against the Toronto Defiant. And a lot of that is this meta, I think, works very well for them. They're a very good rush team. They're a team that doesn't play scared. They challenge their opponents. One of the notes about the Defiant and why they've been so good this year is that teams have really been kind of scared to go up against them. They've been kind of scared about trying to play into a team that has been so dominant this year. We haven't seen that out of this team. This team even beat a really good Fnatic roster at Esports World Cup. This is a team with a lot of talent, a lot of really good players, veterans like Lethal and Admiral and Seeker who've been around for a little while, and some younger players like Infected and Zera, who are really kind of coming into this scene this year. It is their kind of first major appearance in this Overwatch scene. Obviously, great for a lot of these players to get some of that LAN rust off when they played at Esports World Cup. Now they get to go to Stockholm. That second LAN experience, can they kind of turn that into a good result? I think the way the meta has gone, the fact that they've had some more time to continue to succeed and build upon the meta that they just did pretty well in NA Stage 4, gives me a lot of hope for this team. I think they have a lot of really good things going for them. I think they easily can compete with a team like Toronto Defiant. We've seen it for the past several stages, how good that they are able to kind of push the Defiant. And I think they can compete with the likes of, you know, your SSGs and your ENCEs, those kind of top teams coming out of EMEA. I don't think they have what it takes right now to push your Korean teams that are really, really good, but I do really like what this team has done this year. I think they're a very solid core, a very solid roster, a lot of really good young players. Keep your eyes on Seeker, that hit scan. He's able to do some really, really incredible things. And Infected in the tank role, really solid player, up and coming. I don't even want to say up and coming because he's here and he's proven himself quite a lot. But young player is going to be around the scene for a long time. Really, really good. Really, really impressive roster here. I'm very excited to see what they're able to do. Like I said, I think they're my favorite team still alive in OWCS, and I'm excited to see what they're able to do on stage in Stockholm. Up next, the final team coming out of North America, we have NRG Shock. You can see their roster here. Support line with Cal, Arak Attack, and Ultraviolet. Damage trio of PGE, Scissors, and Tree. And their Korean tank duo of Kellen and Attack. This is a very interesting team. They've been pretty good. They did make it to Dallas, which is a big result for this team. When you look at their overall results, a little disappointing, to say the least. That Dallas run for them, not great. 7th, 8th finish with a loss to ENCE there. They, after making Dallas, thinking they're one of the top 3 teams in North America, miss out on Esports World Cup with a 3-2 loss to Timeless, which that version of Timeless would become Nightmare, this current Nightmare roster, which has made some changes, but generally speaking. They got second in North America Stage 3, huge win in the upper bracket finals over the Defiant, but not able to take a map against Defiant in the grand finals. And then in Stage 4, disappointing run for them. 2 losses to Fluffy Aimers, 1 in the group stage, 1 in the main event, a loss to the Defiant, and a pretty early exit for them, but they still had enough points from their earlier success to qualify for the tournament. So they kind of limp here into Stockholm. But there's a lot of silver linings for this team and a lot of things to look at for this team. Even though they're quote-unquote limping in and maybe come into this tournament on paper looking like the weakest team, there's a couple things of note for this team that if you're a fan of this team or you're just hoping this team does pretty well, a couple things to get excited about. One of those things is that Kellen and Attack, their 2 Korean tank players, have been playing on ping. They have not been playing with the team. Obviously, the team is located in North America. Those 2 players located in Korea. There's some time differences there. There's some ping there. You get to have those players on LAN now with your team. You get that connection both with the easier play on LAN and then also just being in person, being with your teammate, forming those bonds. That helps quite a bit, and I think that will make this team somewhat noticeably more cohesive, at least as a unit, than maybe we've seen them for the past little bit. That really helps this team as well. Also, they've had another month plus to really kind of master this look, improve. They had a lot of things going on as well in Stage 4 with Collegiate. A lot of these players compete in Collegiate. There was a Collegiate tournament going on at the same time they were playing in the OWCS, so there are some factors. Maybe it's cope, but there is a world that you can see that this team is in a better spot than they were. And with the talent on this team, Ultraviolet, one of the top flex sport players in the world, Tree, one of the young stars of this esport, who has been really, really good in his career, no matter how short it is. Really good in contenders, really good in OWCS, and we're seeing what he is able to bring to this core roster here. We're looking at a really good team that is maybe a little bit ahead of the schedule. Maybe they're better than what the expectation of them was this year, and maybe they've exceeded those expectations a bit. But they certainly are a team worth watching. They're certainly a team worth following, and I'm very excited to see what improvements they make going into this tournament. I'm excited to see the new look that they're able to bring here, and I'm excited to see if they can get a nice, shocking maybe victory here in Stockholm, as they have managed to kind of bolster some of their team's strengths and improve a bit over the past couple of months, month and a half, whatever it was, since we last saw them. It's been a little while, but I believe in them. I think they're one of those teams that it's hard to really deny what they've been able to do, and I'm excited to see what improvements they've made as we go into this final tournament of the year. Let's now move on to the region hosting this tournament. Of course, that is EMEA. And we start with the team going into this tournament as the top seed coming out of EMEA. And that is Spacestation Gaming. You can see their roster here. Damage trio of Backbone, Psycho, and Sparker. Support duo Funny Astro and Landon. And the tank duo of Hadi and KSA. This is a roster renowned for being a very good rush team. Historically, that's kind of what they've done. So it's no surprise that when the meta was rush in Stage 4 and in a lot of Stage 2, hey, what do you know? They were victorious. You can see their results here for this year. A lot of first place finishes. They were the only team in EMEA to win 2 stages this year. So very good from them. They've overall had a pretty good year, all things considered. Not a lot of things to look at with this team and feel bad about. They've done quite well. So you see those first place finishes, even those top 4 finishes. Only a 5-8 finish at Esports World Cup, but still very good. Still a respectful finish from them there. So all in all, a solid team that has looked very good this year. And I think one of the things that I've loved about this team was the addition of KSA late in the year that really opened up this team's ability to find some more success on some of those maps where their historical kind of rush looks have not been as good. You think of something like Circuit Royale, where Sigma's really, really good, for example. It's way nicer now to be able to go into that map and have a really good Sigma player. Or something like Gibraltar, where it's a really heavy dive map. Well, now you can bring in KSA to play something like D.Va, or even Winston, potentially, which Hadi maybe would play Winston, but you can play D.Va on Gibraltar as well, and that's a place where KSA excels. And so this is a team that has been very good in the second half of the year. Stage 4, I thought, was a really good run from them. We saw KSA compete quite a bit. We also saw a lot of Hadi, of course, because he is kind of the leader for this team. And so I think you look at this team, they should be the favorites, in my opinion, coming out of EMEA in this tournament. They should also be the non-Korean team that most people look at as the biggest threat. This is what they do. They get to that tournament at the end of the year and they surprise everybody by beating one of those top Korean teams. They did it last year, Aslan and Spitfire getting that big win in the playoffs over the Atlanta Reign, who were a really good Korean super team. The majority of that roster now on Team Falcons. And really the impressive thing about this roster is just how good they have been in an EMEA region that is super competitive. And they've been a top 4 finisher every single stage, which is very impressive and says quite a lot about what this team's been able to do. So you pair that, the success they've had in this region, the success they've had in rush metas, and the fact that we're moving into a rush meta kind of the same rush meta we've been in. I think this is a really good spot for this team. You have really good players. They obviously, they tend to play the Mei with Backbone over the Genji, which is always an interesting look as well. But I like what this team is able to do, and I think they really, right now, are kind of playing with house money. People expect them to be good. No one expects them to win it all. They're a very disciplined team. They've looked really good this year. And I just think they've managed to expand their hero pool in such a way, and their play style in such a way, that I don't really think there's that map type that you can take them to and just beat them anymore. That I really do think this team is in one of the best positions they could be in. They're very strong and very talented, and I really think they are the team to beat outside of Korea going into Stockholm. If you can't beat them, there's no way you're going to be able to beat the teams in Korea, and so I think they are in a pretty good spot right now. Second team coming out of EMEA, we have ENCE. Very interesting team here. You can see their roster. Kai, Kevster, and Maimone as their DPS line. Kai and Kevster really the ones that we'll see the majority of in this tournament, but Maimone there as well if they need him. Vestola and Chase as their tanks. Once again, Vestola is going to play for the majority of this tournament, if not the entire thing. Chase, being that he is a Ukrainian player, literally can't leave the country, and so does not really get the chance to play in a lot of these games. Also has been having issues like power because there's a war going on there, which isn't great for him. So I don't expect we'll see him, so we'll probably see the Vestola Orisa in this one. And then you have the Skyripa and Kellex support duo. Interesting team here, like I said, interesting season for them. They were the only team in EMEA to make every single stage finals in the region, which the fact that they only won one of those is kind of disappointing and kind of surprising and kind of shocking that the only victory they found was in that stage 3 win over Virtus Pro. So this team is a bit of a weird one. I think the biggest thing to talk about for them is their kind of coaching carousel they've had this year. They began the year with Gunba as the coach, the reigning Overwatch League Coach of the Year for the Florida Mayhem last year. Won the grand finals for that Mayhem roster. Or contributed at least, didn't play, so we didn't win it for them, but was part of that team. He retires before Esports World Cup, and they bring in, or Crimzo transitions from being a player for this roster to the head coach. And then he retires, and now I don't know if they have a head coach. So this is a team that has a lot of talent when you have Kevster and Kai, two really good players. No denying how good they are. You know that this team has the potential to be a really, really good team. You know they can do well. But is this the meta for them? They did not look great in that grand finals match against SSG. They have struggled a bit to get over the hump kind of consistently throughout the year in those big moments. Even though they can make it to the grand finals, they struggle to actually win those big games. So it's going to take a lot of really great play out of this team to do it. But they have Kevster, and he's one of the best players in the world right now. Not just in Europe, in the world on that flex DPS role. Kai on hit scan, always a problem, always a threat. And Vestola, one of the best tank players right now. There's a reason why they've been so consistent. Because that heart of this roster, that core of this roster, is really, really, really good at what they do. And that is the thing that I think this roster has going for it. It's the ability to have this really strong core that can find success in a lot of different places. Vestola is flexible enough to play really good on those Sigma Poke comps and to play really good on those Orisa Rush comps, which has really helped elevate this team to heights that we've seen them reach this year. And so I think they have a bit of an uphill battle, having gone through some of those changes. They haven't looked like the most dominant team in EMEA as of late, but they're good, and they're strong, and we know that they can do well. And it's all about putting it together and getting those wins and finding that success here. They have maybe the best player coming from the country where this tournament's happening, So does that hometown buff help them? Who knows? We'll see. But I do think this team on LAN will be really fun to watch. I think you're getting a lot of great play out of Kevster and Kai all the time. So I don't think this is a team that would surprise me if they manage to make a decently deep run here in this OWCS Finals. Final team here, last but not least, let's talk about Twisted Minds. What an odd way for them to get into this tournament, having to play their final game playing UB. They had to win a map with UB or win the series. It was a whole thing, but they make it in after a somewhat up and down year. But let's start by looking at their roster. You can see it here. They have a damage trio of Quartz, UB, and Lambda, with the Korean support backline of Bliss and MCD and their tank player TVNT. So very interesting team here. You can see their results kind of all over the place. They won that EMEA Stage 1. Didn't look great at the WCS Major. Lots of factors played into that. KSA leaves this roster before he joins SSG, which the SSG joining was much more recently than him leaving this roster. Plus, they had visa issues going into that tournament. So you kind of look at that major. They basically didn't even compete. This roster's so different now. Esports World Cup, bit of a disappointment getting that 5th, 8th finish. Not an amazing team and run there. Stage 4, however, they got 3rd. Like I said, that game with UB. Huge win over Virtus Pro as well to get themselves even able to play in that game to get that map win with UB. This team, really interesting, right? Well known for being a team that likes to run the Pharah Widowmaker composition or some kind of Pharah hitscan combination. Lambda on the Pharah, really, really good. And Quartz, one of the most mechanically gifted hitscan players in the world. It's the thing this team does that really sets them apart from the other teams, not just in EMEA, but in the world. It's not that they can't play other stuff. They do play other stuff. UB, a really good flex DPS player. He plays Tracer at a high level, for example. He plays Genji, I believe, at a high level. So you're getting really good players on this team that can play quite a lot of things. But they've kind of recognized and realized, hey, we are a team where our best chance of winning isn't necessarily playing meta. It's playing to our strengths. These are the heroes we're really good at. We're really good at Pharah. We're really good at Widowmaker. We have a support duo that is able to enable us to really play to our strengths. Why would we try to mirror meta compositions or mirror these rush compositions or whatever that people are running when we know at our core that we are not a better Orisa rush team than Crazy Raccoon? So let's throw a wrench. Let's be different. Let's be unique. Let's play to our strengths. And when you have Quartz just clicking heads all the time and Lambda just being a nuisance in the skies, getting those kills, they've done very well being that kind of team. It's harder to do that when you play against the best teams in the world. There's a reason why they, were really good in Stage 1. Like I said, they've made roster moves. That obviously impacted as well. But they were very good in Stage 1. Kind of fell off for a bit. And even Stage 4, they were good. They weren't incredible, but they were good enough to get 3rd, which is a notable result for them. So it's a good team. It's an interesting team. It's a really, really, really interesting scenario for them to be in, because I suspect they'll still play Orisa. They played a lot of Orisa from what I remember in Stage 4. It is just that they play Pharah instead of Genji, and they play a lot of Widowmaker, and they just play, I think Mercy still. So they're an interesting team to watch for that reason. They play differently than a lot of other teams. They look different than a lot of other teams. And at their core, that is what makes them so fun and interesting to watch. And so I'm excited to see what they're able to do in this one, because I think it's going to be interesting. And I think when you have a team like that, it always makes the tournament more fun, more interesting, and more unique, because you don't really know what to expect, because they could come in and play a weird comp. These teams that aren't used to them might lose some maps here and there. And that's a very interesting prospect that will be fun to see on stage there in Stockholm. So there you are. There's a little rundown on the 8 teams that are going to be competing at the OWCS Stockholm tournament. Let me know your thoughts on what we've seen, what you need to know, all that kind of stuff. Because there's a lot of fun stuff. Obviously, it's a really interesting tournament. I'm very excited for this one. And keep your eyes out for tomorrow when I put out my bracket predictions for this tournament. We'll talk about what I think is going to happen, but for now, these are the teams. These are my thoughts on them overall. This is your kind of general look at these teams and what to kind of expect and some of my thoughts. So, like I said, let me know your thoughts on any of these teams in the comments down below because I want to talk about it. It's been a long year about OWCS. We're finally reaching the end. We have our teams. We have our stage is set. So now it's all about execution and perfecting this meta that we've had for a few months now, or a month, whatever it was. But that's all for me for today. Thank you all once again. This is a bit of a long video, so if you enjoyed it, want more like it in the future, consider liking and subscribing. Extra support it does help out a lot with the channel. That's going to be all for me. However, thank you all once again. Hope you're all staying safe and staying healthy. And until next time, bye-bye.